Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Waldo, and in this video we're going to be installing a custom interior inside this project truck. Here it is, my 1995 GMC C3500HD. I paid $300 for this truck, essentially saving it from being scrapped. This project has turned into a full-on resto mod, complete with a paint job and custom seats. The engine is a 24-valve 5.9 Cummins out of a Dodge Ram. The transmission is a 5-speed Eaton Fuller out of a medium-duty Freightliner. The goal is to end up with a heavy-duty truck for towing and hauling future projects. I have been accumulating this stuff for over a year now in anticipation for this part of the project, and I am really excited to finally get this installed in the truck and get it out of my living room. Now, this truck was a basic work truck, meaning it had vinyl flooring, a basic bench seat, no power windows, no power locks, no air conditioning, no cruise control. It really didn't have very much. In this video, we're going to change that by adding some more conveniences and options. Right here I have some brand new carpet and floor mats. I went ahead and ordered the color Cognac, which is kind of a nice rich light brown. I think it'll do a good job of hiding dirt. It's a little bit darker than the interior, but I did that on purpose. Underneath the carpet there's going to be plenty of noise insulation. Over here I have some material for a custom headliner. It's a nice diamond stitched pattern. And then over here I have stuff for the new sound system. I'm going to be installing an Alpine double DIN unit with a touchscreen and CarPlay. There's a Kenwood amplifier. I have a kicker subwoofer, and then for speakers we have Infinity reference speakers for the doors, and then a couple kicker speakers for the B-pillars. We're not going for anything too crazy, no rattling windows or anything like that. We just want the system to be able to handle a full range of frequencies that music reproduction requires. Let's not forget about the new bucket seats. These came out of a mid-90s Pontiac Bonneville, and not only are they in great shape, but they're really comfortable. They're made of real leather, and I got them from a junkyard for, I don't remember if it was $50 each or $50 for the pair, but either way, it's a pretty good deal. Now, I've already had these installed, and I've already made custom brackets for them, but in this video, I will be reinstalling them for the final time, hopefully. Now, the passenger seat is manual, however, the driver's seat is electric, so I'll have to run power to it, but that's pretty simple to do. What do you think, Aspen? Do you approve? Are they comfy? Well, what are we waiting for? Let's start by installing the sound system because that has wiring that's going to go underneath the carpets. Now, the first order of business is to get the head unit to physically fit. Now, the factory radio is actually a 1.5 DIN unit, which is not very common, and there's almost no aftermarket support for it. So the new unit is a double DIN unit, and it is a little bit bigger, which means it won't fit in this hole. Luckily, Metra sells this, which is an adapter. It replaces this, and I will paint it to match. But the first order of business is to remove this existing dashboard piece, which just pops out. Remove the connector over here for the headlight switch, and then this thing should just come out. A little bit tricky. I also have to remove the climate control, unclip this. Oh, and I broke it, but that's actually okay because I am going to use a different unit that has a control for the AC anyway. Cool. These tabs broke off really easily because this plastic is 26 years old. So the climate control has to be moved down, and to make room for it, I'm going to have to use this smaller cubby that was included. So let's remove the old cubby. Pops out like that. So to relocate the climate control unit, they give you this little template here. We just insert it into these holes. And then, I guess you guys can't really see, let me take it back out. There are little holes here on both sides of this where I can use a little pick or something to make a mark, and then I know where the new holes are going to be drilled. Nice. All right, the climate control can't physically go any lower than this because these shelves are in the way, so I'm going to have to start doing some cutting. Nah, just kidding. This truck is too nice to use the Camerata method. Well, it's sort of in place. That might work. So the radio itself is actually a shallow design, which makes it quite a bit easier to fit in here. And the kit came with these black plastic brackets, which should locate it in the right spot. So let's fit it in here and see if it fits. Yeah, I mean, that's in place. It looks pretty good. All right, so it's time to paint this panel to match the rest of the dashboard. And I know it's gonna match because I already painted the rest of the dashboard with this. Yeah, there was a lot of masking to do just to keep this center part black, which it came that way from the factory, so. One more coat and this thing will be ready to go. Yeah, so check it out. It's completely painted and I got everything switched over from the new instrument panel to this one, including the vents, the headlight switch, and all the clips on the back to hold it in place, which was surprisingly tricky to do. Let's try fitting this panel in here and see how it looks. Yeah, so check it out. Looks like it fits pretty well. Probably need to adjust this just a little bit. So when I take this back off, if I just attach it up there a little bit better, that should work. And I actually do have a little bit of room to move it up if I need to. And then we'll throw this little cubby in here. That thing just pops in there like so. It almost looks factory. So the next step is to get this thing wired up. This thing pops out pretty easily. So I've got a bag here full of all the things that connect to the back of the head unit. And then this is part of the kit to adapt the GM wiring harness to the new head unit. This plugs into the GM connector, and then all these wires here get soldered onto the connectors here, and then voila, simple as that. As usual, all of the connections are going to be soldered with heat shrink. All right, so at this point I have the head unit pretty much all wired up. So the audio goes from the head unit to the amplifier via these 3 RCA cables. Audio then comes back from the amplifier up here over this 9-wire, I guess you can't really see it because it's tucked in there, but there's a 9-wire cable that then plugs into this harness right here. This harness plugs into the factory connector, which goes back out to the speakers. And then this also supplies power and ground back to the radio connector, which is this one right here. And it also has this cool little module right here. So nowadays, modern radios often lock you out of the settings menus unless the parking brake is engaged. And to me, that's really annoying nanny stuff. So what this little module does is it basically overrides that and makes it so that you can access the settings and all of that stuff even while you're driving. So let's say, for example, if your passenger wants to use it, they'll be able to do that. I'll put a link in the description below for this. It's pretty cheap and it works for all Alpine head units. We also have USB so that you can plug your phone into it, and it also has a microphone input so that if you're talking on the phone or giving Siri commands or whatever, there's a microphone that'll be mounted on the headliner that'll pick up your voice there. There's a wire here for a reverse signal so that I can hook up a backup camera at some point. For now, I'm going to leave this floating because I don't have a backup camera, but I may use this at some point. So I have the subwoofer roughly in place. It's going to go there behind the seat. And then the amplifier is down here. That's going to go underneath the seat, and I'm probably going to make up some brackets to mount that to the seat brackets. We've got power cable run to the battery. We've got that 9-wire speaker cable, and we got the RCA cables right here, which I will tidy up later. So now that I have this microphone run up here, there's nothing really stopping me from installing a custom headliner. So let's switch gears a little bit. We're going to make the custom headliner, and then we can get it installed. All right, so here is the old headliner, and it is dirty, it's water stained, it's got holes in it, it's peeling. It's time for a new headliner. So the first thing I'm going to try to do is peel this fabric off of the sort of foam-like backing. And it does come off fairly easily. So this is about 30 inches, and I'm going to add a couple inches for overlap. So we'll say 32 inches of material. Yep, looks like this will fit. So I'm going to use some 3M headliner adhesive, and spray it on this. I'll spray it on the other side of the fabric, let them tack up a little bit, and then put them together and let them dry, and that should be it. It's pretty simple to do. Look at that, beautiful. And there it is, very nice. Now before I install the new headliner, we're gonna jump around a little bit again. I'd like to install some sound deadening material. But before I install sound deadening material up here, I want to install it in some higher priority places like the floor and the firewall. Just in case I run out, those places are more important because there's going to be more sound deadening needed in those locations. So this is the sound deadening material right here. I think what it is it's basically an 80 mil thick sheet of butyl adhesive covered by this sort of foil. And it's really heavy and dense, so it does a good job of absorbing vibrations and sound waves. And this is the installation tool. You basically use this to roll the edges, and this makes sure that it adheres well to the surface. Now the floor pan is kind of awkwardly shaped. It's got all these ridges and valleys here, which will make it a little bit tricky to lay it down smoothly. But it's not important to get 100% coverage. You want to get as much coverage as you can, but it doesn't need to be 100%. So I'm going to lay down a piece that goes from this here to this here, which is, it's about 17 inches. So let's start there. Just push it. One little bit down and a lot left to go. Yeah, so I got some pretty decent coverage with the sound deadening. And I did manage to get a bunch of it on the roof as well. So I think that the carpet installation makes sense to do next. Now this carpet came from the factory pre-molded to fit in here pretty closely. However, it doesn't have any holes for things like the shifter, bolts that go to hold the seats in, or anything like that. And it should also be too big as well, so I need to trim it down to size. So I need to get it approximately in place. I think the very first thing I'm going to do is cut the hole for the shifter, because that'll sort of hold it in the middle of the vehicle, and then I can work out from there and figure everything else out and cut any other holes as necessary. All right, so I think perhaps one of the best ways to line this up is that the carpet is contoured to match the floor, and there's a really well-defined bump right here and one on this side over here. And so I've got the carpet in place and it's matched up with those. And then I can also see that this pad over here is pretty darn close to the accelerator pedal, so that seems to be about in the right place. So let's get this cut up. Nice. So I've got the carpet in place and I've trimmed up all 4 sides of it, and I think it's looking pretty good. Because all of the other colors of the interior are pretty neutral, I decided I wanted to go with this sort of more adventurous color, and I think it's going to look pretty good. Now, once again, before I get too far ahead of myself, I just want to patch up this hole here in the transmission tunnel. Now, I needed to make this hole because I had to remove this top cover from the transmission in order to get it to fit in here because things were so tight. And in order to do that, I have to be able to access 4 bolts here. In any case, I made a bit of a hatch here, which goes on like so. And then I'm just going to screw it down. We'll put some sealant on it to make sure that it's weather tight. And once we reinstall the carpet, you'd never know it's there. So I'm going to lay down some sealant here. And the screws I'm using for this, they are actually screws that are intended for metal roofing. They're meant for sheet metal, they're self-tapping, they have little rubber gaskets on the top. Not that that really will matter too much because of the sealant, but why not? Yeah, that looks pretty good. That's not going anywhere. So I am at the point where I want to mount the passenger side seat brackets. The problem is that I don't know exactly where to make the holes in the carpet because it's really hard to feel down and feel where the holes are in the floor. So what I'm going to do is make sure the carpet is in the right place, go underneath with this little pick. It's pretty sharp, and then I can stick it up through the holes. It'll come through the carpet, and then I know exactly where to make the holes. Yeah, I don't know if you can hear that on the metal roof, but it's raining pretty hard outside. All right, and I got a little bit of a hole there, so I'll do the other 3, and then I should be able to mount these up. So I got one of the brackets installed already, and then before I install this bracket, I'm actually going to go ahead and weld this onto it, and this is a little bracket that's going to hold the amplifier approximately like so. So let's get this into the shop and weld it up. What a messy shop. Yeah, that should be good enough. That's way more weld material than is necessary since this is so light. Yeah, so I ended up getting the amplifier mounted and it's all wired up. All of the seat brackets are installed, this side and that side. And rather than installing the seats right now, I think it would be best to start installing some trim because the seats will limit access to the trim, especially in the back here. Oh, and if you're interested in seeing the video where I actually made these seat brackets and installed the seats for the very first time, I'll put a link in the description below. This video came out probably close to a year ago, before I even started the Cummins-Swapped and before I painted the truck. I believe it was my first time ever TIG welding, and from what I remember being one of my earlier videos in my YouTube channel, I was pretty happy with how it came out. Installing this trim is a little bit like a jigsaw puzzle, but I think I have to install this weather stripping first. It's also been about a year since I removed all this stuff, so I don't remember exactly how it goes. Very nice. So it has come to my attention that this was one of the very first pieces of trim that I was supposed to install, because it goes underneath the pieces on the side here. And you know, I looked at these and I saw that it looks like this goes underneath that, which it kind of does, but they actually interlock, and you really need to have this on first. So I guess I just gotta take stuff apart. I think I only need to take apart one side, luckily, because it always makes me nervous when I'm doing this, because it's just, I'm afraid I'm gonna break things. And I often do break trim. It's unfortunate, but dealing with such old plastic like this, it just breaks sometimes. I think that's installed. Hey, look at that. It's looking pretty good in here. All right, there we go. Seat number 1 installed. Oh. Yeah, not too bad. It's super comfortable. And then when that's in 5th gear, it doesn't even get close to in the way of the passenger. Well, I have everything together, and I realized that I have not actually sat in this truck yet with the shifter installed and with all the pedals installed. So I really want to give it a try and see how they feel. Yeah, so the shifter works. It goes through all the gears and doesn't hit the dashboard, which is nice. The clutch pedal feels pretty decent. The accelerator pedal feels good. And the brake pedal is the one thing I didn't touch. Actually, that's not completely true. I did put the skinny pedal on instead of the big wide pedal from the automatic, but the brake pedal feels just fine. I guess time will tell if it feels too cramped for a tall guy like myself in a regular cab truck, but for now it does feel pretty good. The seats are very comfortable. So I wanted to take this opportunity to try out the head unit, and it powers on. So I can plug in my iPhone, and it brings up CarPlay, and you have, you know, phone and music, maps for navigation, messages, podcasts, all that good stuff. So we can go ahead and open up the music app. Now I already loaded some copyright-free music on here that I can play on YouTube. And if you've watched the channel, you may have heard this song before. It's kind of a good one. And it sounds pretty good. I mean, I don't know how it sounds over this microphone. It probably actually doesn't sound very good because it is optimized for the human voice rather than music. But considering that the sound system doesn't actually have the door speakers installed yet, it's just the B-pillar speakers, which are pretty small 4x6 speakers, which really, even with quality speakers, they're not actually supposed to sound that good. But the subwoofer sounds good, the speakers sound pretty decent. And once I get the higher quality door speakers installed, nice 6-inch round speakers, I think that the system is going to sound excellent. What's this button do? Is this thing on? With the interior reinstalled, we are another step closer to driving this truck. As for the next video, I'm thinking about fabricating a custom stainless steel exhaust. I've never done stainless TIG welding before, but there's a first time for everything. Thank you so much for watching, and leave your comments down below. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up so the YouTube algorithm knows that you and I are good buddies. And then we're gonna put a microphone on your collar. It's okay, Aspen. There we go. All right, Aspen. Aspen. Wait. Aspen, to speak. Good girl. Here you go. Good girl. All right, let's get this microphone off you now. Look at that. Mic'd up. Okay. Okay. Good girl. Yeah.